Hey, strange things. While we've all been hiding away in quarantine, Ripley's Believe It or Not Orlando underwent a renovation. At the epicenter of the Sunshine State, this attraction now boasts a weird Florida gallery, among other updates. It's stocked with everything from skunk apes to ancient alligators and shrunken heads owned by the old man of the sea himself, Ernest Hemingway. Today on Cool Stuff, Strange Things, we're talking about Robert Ripley's very own weird Florida experiences and what it is that makes FLA so crazy. Turn on the news, and no matter what part of the country you're in, you've got a pretty good chance of hearing a Florida man followed by something absolutely absurd. Like the Gainesville man who used a 3-foot alligator that was casually in his bathtub as a weapon, or the mermaid that was banned from a pool for violating the no fins policy. To be fair though, Florida has been historically offbeat. The state's first flag displayed the text, "Let us alone," and at one point, it was pretty lonely. In 1940, Florida was the least populated state in the South. Today, it is one of the most populated in the country, beating out New York for third place behind California and Texas. Over 21 million residents plus the hundreds of millions of visitors a year, the state is set up for the strange. But let's take it back to 1940. That's when Robert Ripley brought his Believe It or Not CBS radio show, See America First, to Florida. Marineland was the world's first oceanarium, and it opened 2 years earlier in St. Augustine and quickly became one of Florida's most popular tourist destinations. Ripley's crew arrived with plans to broadcast part of the show underwater, a historical first. His Marineland visit started with a dolphin interaction, feeding them and then helping milk a female dolphin. This dolphin was lifted from a waterbed in a webbed harness, but in order for Ripley to get the right angle, a Marineland attendant had to cut the harness strap and accidentally grazed the dolphin. A spurt of its blood splattered onto Ripley's diving suit. Next, Ripley put on a huge diving helmet, which fit over his headphones and the microphones that would allow him to broadcast from the shark pool underwater. Burdened by the cumbersome suit and helmet, Ripley and a Marineland expert slowly descended to the bottom of the pool. Ripley had grumbled all day about this stunt. He wasn't a good swimmer, and he was anxious about speaking on air without a script. Submerged, Ripley was equipped with a long stick. He was feeding the sharks mullet, but for some reason the sharks, they weren't interested. They began circling around Ripley's, and one shark bumped into him backwards and bopped him on his bun. One of the divers grabbed Ripley's arm, drug him up the stairs, and they figured out that the sharks must have picked up on that scent of dolphin blood on Ripley's suit. The experience may have frightened and infuriated Ripley, to say the least, but the show was a thrilling hit. Ready for more Florida and fame, his shark encounter did little to dampen Ripley's intrepidness. When he heard about a snake and alligator farm at Silver Springs, he notified his New York office to change the broadcast schedule. He wanted to milk a rattlesnake on the air. Another first, needless to say. Ripley began his broadcast on a boat with Ross Allen, founder of the Silver Springs Reptile Institute. "Don't be frightened by that noise you hear in the background," Ripley told listeners. "It's just the bellowing of alligators who are all excited by this broadcast from their homeland." He then described how moments earlier Allen had jumped into the water to wrestle a 10-foot gator.
He's putting up the glass, the snake is biting on it. Maybe you can hear that snake biting. He's now opened its mouth, moving back the membrane over all over the fangs, which are about an inch long. These are like hypodermic needles, you know.
Once on land, Ripley and Allen climbed down a ladder into a pit slithering with 500 poisonous snakes. No thanks. The plan was for Allen to grab a rattlesnake and show Ripley how to milk it and collect its venom. Ripley wore thick rubber boots while Allen remained barefoot in true Florida style. Nervous Bob, Allen asked, according to the script, Ripley was supposed to say that after man-eating sharks and deadly snakes, these Believe It or Not programs were going to be the end of him, but he didn't have the chance. Just as he and Ross were lowered down to the pit, the lights went out. Allen yelled, "Let's get the hell out of here." That's what they just did. Ripley had enough time to throw the broadcast over to his New York studio, figured out it was a muskrat. No big deal.
Ladies and gentlemen, and I'm sure after that, all I can say is, believe it or not.
Needless to say, after these two very Florida broadcasts, Ripley retreated back to his New York home, but it wouldn't be the last time that he explored Florida. Ripley's prized possession was a ship called the Monley, built in 1939. One story says it was sailed across to California to keep it out of Japanese hands and was later found sunk in the mud in Florida. Ripley invested $40,000 to restore the worn-out vessel, and in April of 1946 set sail towards the Sunshine State. A Miami newsman described the Montlake as something between an orange blossom float and an opium dream. Ripley continued to sail up Florida's west coast to St. Petersburg, where he signed autographs on the pier for hours. But he had signed one other thing while on board the Montlake in St. Pete, his last will and testament. After signing the document, he hid it aboard the Montlake, hoping its services wouldn't be required for years to come. A couple years later, Ripley made Florida a permanent home for himself and the Montlake with a Spanish-style mansion called High Mount in Palm Beach. Far from the demanding New York lifestyle, Florida seemed to relax Ripley, but within weeks of moving into his new home, he was back in New York. Regardless of his indecisiveness, Florida was still set to be Ripley's final destination. Located at 9 San Marco Avenue, Ripley's St. Augustine Auditorium was once known as the Warden Castle. These 4 stories of Moorish Revival architecture were built in the 1880s and hosted many a notable guest, from Rockefellers to Flaglers, and Marjorie Rawlings, author of The Yearling, who actually purchased the castle with her husband. Robert Ripley was enamored with Warden and tried time and time again to purchase it himself, but was continuously denied. It wasn't until after Ripley's sudden death in 1949 that his estate was able to acquire the property, making it the very first permanent Ripley's Believe It or Not attraction. Now, with 4 Believe It or Not attractions in the state, there is no shortage of strange in Florida. Plus, we've told many weird Florida stories on Ripley's.com and cool stuff strange things. In my opinion, Carl Tanzler tops them all. You know, the Key West creep who fell in love with a tuberculosis patient, proceeded to sleep with her corpse for 9 years. The guy who was put on trial for grave robbing and exonerated, not because he was innocent, but because the statute of limitations had expired. Yeah, a tale as old as time, right? But there's so much more to dive into. Like when the mayor of Cedar Key, Florida became an island dictator and had to be captured by a naval invasion, or the sideshow stars of past and present that call Gibsonton home. Tell us what weird Florida stories you want us to cover in the comments below, and make sure to check out the new Weird Florida Gallery at Ripley's Believe It or Not, Orlando. I'm Sabrina Seek, and we will be back next week with more cool stuff and strange things.